Awesome to see you guys. How is everyone feeling? Good? Yeah? Charged up? Got a little coffee? Super. So we're going to cover a lot of ground today, and I think, what can be difficult sometimes is knowing with trends what's really something we should be paying attention to as marketers, and maybe what's just sort of hype that people are putting out there. So hoping to get to the truth of that today and really leverage the expertise of our fantastic panel. So with that, I'm just going to give each of you a chance to sort of briefly introduce yourself and maybe share a little bit about the area of marketing you're most passionate about. Manjit, we'll start with you. I guess people know who you are, but...
Well, I'm Manjit Minhas, and I guess the answer to your second question is I'm definitely passionate about not only brand building as far as our company goes, but also in the last 6 years, and I've developed and come to really believe that all of us need to be personal brand builders too, because whether we're selling and promoting our companies and our products and services, we're always still promoting ourselves. And so it is, I think, something that I've been more focused on lately too.
Awesome. We're going to talk more about that later. So.
Hi guys, I'm Christine Johnson. I'm part of the strategic marketing department at Vancouver Island University. I've been working in marketing for a number of years now with a heavy focus on digital marketing. I guess lately I've been really focused on marketing strategy and how you can apply that to different parts of your campaigns. It's been a big focus for me over the past few months or couple of years. I'm really excited to be here today, and that's my quick intro.
Yeah, hi everyone. Rene Gauthier, founder of Ecologist, formerly Sitka. It's a small clothing company. We're based in Victoria, BC. Really passionate about working very closely with our customers to essentially figure out what we should do in our business. So yeah, excited to talk about that during this panel and also later on today.
Kelsey Pringle. So I am the CEO of 5 Star Media Group, and we create visual assets for businesses or marketers that are working with these businesses in the terms of video, photography, graphic design. And so for us, it's really trying to distinguish what your messaging is or what you're wanting to accomplish, figuring out your demographic, creating a brief, and then creating that visual creative so that it's impactful and you can connect with your customers.
Great, thank you, Kelsey. And I'm going to give extra props to Kelsey and to Rene because all of us have babies under the age of 1 at home, and we're managing to form sentences, so. Excellent. So I want to dive right in and talk about the subject of marketing transformation, which is this idea that marketing and the definition of it is constantly having to change and evolve. So what people might have perceived as marketing as maybe being purely advertising or branding at one point is now sort of bleeding into all aspects of business, and we're seeing a lot of change take place as a result. So just sort of starting high level here, guys, where do you think the most exciting transformation is taking place with marketing, and what facets of the business?
I think video is going to be a big aspect of marketing moving forward. It's become a lot more accessible to people. Everyone here probably has a smartphone. They could make a video quite easily if they needed to. But I think video is going to change in the sense that you don't need to necessarily have the full-fledged fully produced commercial. You could maybe do something quick and easy on your own, and then also paired with a professional enterprise that's going to help you level up and make a nice polished piece.
I totally agree. I also believe that the strategy part of marketing is something that I'm really excited about in a lot of my investments, but in our own company, that before the marketing department was definitely a silo, and whether they be the advertising company or the part of the company or the branders or the graphic design, everybody worked in their own kind of silos and thought and executed what they believed the product or the brand to be. Whereas we really have done with every company that I'm involved in, including our own, last year and continue to hopefully in the first part of this year, mix all of those people together, and they are not just a marketing department anymore. There's one person is deployed into sales, into product development, into the actual manufacturing business, into customer and front-facing retail, et cetera, et cetera. And so one thing we're we're finding is that marketing and advertising is something that we need to make sure that in all parts of the businesses they're listening to. And that transformation as to we are out here and in the office and we don't really know, we know, but only when it's like filtered and completely comes to us. Is it a decision that is being made? So for us, I really do feel that it's exciting to know that marketers are getting involved into the business and getting their fingertips and their ideas and challenging the traditional parts of the business.
Really speaking to that integrated approach. Anyone else want to touch that one?
Yeah, transformation. Hey, for us, we're really looking to increase the human-on-human experiences that we're having, and that's an area that you're like, well, that could be kind of hard to scale up, but I think that works well for us being a small business. It's an area that, compared to our competition, we can actually, lean into that, and so we're just constantly looking for new ways that we can increase the amount of conversations we're having with our customers. So we do have some of our own physical retail locations, so obviously that's happening there. But also on our e-commerce side, we're finding a lot of the conversations we're having with people were when somebody would have a negative experience, so their shipment wouldn't show up on time or so forth. But once we started a conversation with them, we were able to really get them excited and make it a very positive, moment for them. So now, though, we're like, okay, how do we actually just talk to them more? Even if they are an e-commerce customer, we can't do it one-on-one. So we're reaching out, for more feedback from them. We're bringing them into the office, into the factory, letting them see how we do things, letting them participate in, how we create future products, so forth. I guess in a nutshell, just trying to humanize it more. Yeah.
Well, Rene, that actually kind of opens up, we'll be drilling down into kind of more technology trends, but one of the things that came up in my research before this is, looking at chatbots as a marketing tool and a kind of customer relationship tool. Just wondering, I know when we talked a bit before, you said that is something you guys are looking at more critically. Anything to share on that?
Chatbots? Or what?
Chatbots.
I'm happy to speak to it. It's something that we use only for an initial conversation on our online store, just to get the conversation going, a conversation starter. But then after that, it switches right to an actual human. We haven't found an application, at least for us, that it actually works. I liken it to, you call up TELUS and you're sitting with a machine for 20 minutes and it's freaking annoying. And so have chatbots been in our experience. We're only using it right now to just get a conversation started. Somebody lands on a particular page on our site or a particular product on our site, and it'll be a relevant conversation starter, but beyond that, it goes straight to an actual human. Yeah.
We use chatbots and have for a while now in our customer service department, and they've been fabulous, and we actually are almost all exclusive that. There is somebody but behind the scenes, but very, very rarely does it actually have to get to the human, because what we've discovered over the years is that there actually are only about 24 questions that people are calling about, and if we can answer that and service it quickly, they really don't want to be on the phone any longer with you, or even online with you. And so we use them pretty extensively. And actually, the last quarter, we just started using chatbots to actively call our customers. And our customers being the retailers first, and then the end consumer we can't get to, but our retailers. And so we're lucky that we, as many of you probably have lists and all the data as to who they are. And we've actually started using them to actively engage and be calling them rather than the other waiting for them to call us when shit is basically hitting the fan. That's why you call somebody. And so they have so far been really good. We're definitely very cautiously and I get reports every single day as to how many calls and what people are saying and how do we improve that experience. But we haven't got much reluctance to it, which is really nice. And it's something that is really efficient, and since we'd already done it in our customer service side, we were able to just kind of grow on what we felt the needs and the wants and the questions people were having. Also, a great initial way to launch a new product. We're getting some great feedback as to whether they like it or not. And most people know they're talking to a chatbot, and they're actually more open to talk to a chatbot with their real, true feedback than a real person. So in the beginning, at least, we're finding. So we are really trying to employ and deploy it even more and more.
That's really exciting. I think, we're looking at this panel as, the next year, but also the next decade. And I, for one, am slightly terrified of robots, but I also am quite excited to see where AI goes in terms of marketing applications, because I think in the next 10 years, we're going to see some major transformation. I want to get back to sort of this conversation around customer. Across the board, customers are demanding a more connected, continuous, and transparent, and hyper-relevant experience with the brands of today. So what are you and your team doing right now to keep the customer at the center of your marketing strategies this year or when looking to the decade ahead?
I'll speak to that. I think anyone who's run an email marketing campaign over the past year or two is familiar with Castle and some of the new legislation that's come into effect. So privacy is a huge element that we're thinking about in terms of transparency and the messaging that we're using, how we're speaking to people, when we're speaking to people, and legally if we're allowed to be speaking to people through certain channels. It's incredibly important that you've got a clean database and you've got everything lined up the way it needs to be. Yeah, that's kind of.
Connecting with customers is so important, and I think it was a Walmart CEO that had said the customer has the ability to fire everyone from the top down if you're not listening to them, because they can pivot at a moment's notice to your competitor. And it's so important to be able to connect with your customer and really understand what their needs are and what their wants are. And today, it seems easier than it's ever been, but it's not at the same time, because there are so many distractions these days too. There's constant on social media and things like that. So going back to the chatbot, I love that customer engagement aspect of things, because you get the conversation going. I also think that you have to work harder to get the customer to love your brand and love what you're doing. And if you can get them to emotionally kind of commit to you, then they're going to have loyalty to you. So creating that sort of vibe is really important. But listening to your customer throughout the way, you have to do that.
Kelsey, I want to touch on something you said, and actually something you said as well, Manjit, in your wonderful keynote there, which is this concept of listening. And I know, Rene, you've been talking about this as well. So many of us are great at talking marketing, but I think we can all agree that one of the most critical pieces of being effective in this field is listening to our customers. What are some of the ways that each of your businesses are doing this effectively? I know we've talked about the importance of it, but what I'm really interested in hearing is one or two really effective ways that you guys are listening and showing that you're listening to customers.
Yeah, I can think of a couple. I mean, this one might be one of the biggest for us recently. Is we for a while we sent out investor updates, and we'd usually sent those to our investors. And one day we decided, why don't we, open things up and actually just start sending this to all of our customers. And this was, a bit of a scary thing to do. Opening the kimono and showing people behind the scenes, and you don't know how people are going to react, but we're putting all this effort into an investor update. Maybe we can put it to more use than just, the few investors that are getting this. What we heard back from people after doing that was like, wow, like this is amazing. I don't see this from many companies. Thank you so much. But also, how do I become an investor? Came back to us like multiple times. So we're like, that's an interesting concept. So last year, we ended up selling just over 7% of our company to 206 of our customers. And this is a model that we're going to continue forward with now. This year, we're trying to get that number to 20% of our business being customer-owned. And that's just like another level of loyalty. We're only like 6 months into it, but we're just blown away by these 206 individuals that are just really helping to propel our biz forward right now.
Yeah, listening is interesting because I don't believe listening is hearing, because hearing is passive and listening has to be active. And how we have started to listen more to our customers. Also, we just have to actually define who our customer is. As like many of you, our customer is two-faced. First, our first customer is the retailer. We have to sell it and listen to what our retailer wants to put in their stores. And then after that, our second customer, the one who takes it home and actually consumes it, is our customer. And so we decided that we needed to actively and listen to our customer, not just hear them out as to what they think went wrong or what was good for them after the fact. We needed to do that before and listen to their ideas. And so how did we do that? We actually sent our brewmasters and continue to send our R&D team out to listen to our customers and our retailers to say, where have they been around the world? The nice thing now is that people actually see and consume many different products and services and marketing, not only locally, but internationally, based on the language they speak, where they're from, where their family is from, where they vacation, what their dreams are. And so from that, our R&D team has actually gone out and continues to come up with what they're going to experiment with based on listening to our retailers and our customers. Hey, I saw calimocho when I was sitting on the beach, and well, okay, is that something that you'd want to consume in -40 at home too, or was it only in Brazil? And what was it, and how do we do it, and is it something that we can actually make, and is there maybe a market for it? But that's one example of many of the things that now we actually come up with. Not to say that they all make it to market, but it's unbelievable what actually comes out of that, listening to them and getting people out of the office, which has been is a really tough thing to do, to listen to the customers, not just filter it down from the front-facing sales reps who are out there, because they can only take in so much, because everybody's always giving them their feedback. So I do believe that you have to determine that listening is not hearing. They're two very different things, and what you're going to do with that information, if anything. But if you are going to do something with it, there has to be a process that how you're going to filter it and deal with it.
Manjit, I love that, and I think it really echoes what you were talking about with embracing discomfort as a business, and sometimes that means hearing things you don't want to hear necessarily about how your brand may not be resonating or might be. I'd also like to add that I would pretty much drink anything if it was -40 outside, so. Let's move on to content. We know that content is king. It's never been truer than now, I think. I actually like to say content is queen, because on the chessboard, the queen can move way more different directions and the king's kind of useless. But I digress. So content is queen. It's never been more true. I want to know what gets you excited about your organization's owned content this year. Specifically, what channels are you prioritizing and why? Or, if you don't want to talk about yourself, what are you seeing other brands doing in the owned content space that you think is really exciting?
Yeah, so in terms of content, we have shifted our focus a little bit. I think we knew that when you are a university, it can be a little bit intimidating as a new student to look up at the campus and think about applying. And go through all the challenges of what goes through people's heads. We offer a pretty wide range of programs. A lot of people come to us from very different backgrounds, so defining our personas and who our customer is. It's not a customer in a traditional sense, so there's really a lot of moving pieces that we need to think about. I think I lost my train of thought again. Can you read the question? I'm so sorry.
No, don't worry. Do you have a 1-year-old at home as well?
Content. Oh, yeah.
Yes,
So
content.
I was so excited about this question because we just launched a new campaign, and our content has focused on video, internal resources for potential students, internal resources for current students. We featured recent graduates in some of our content so that they're actually the people telling the story. And I think that's a lot more powerful than me as the marketer trying to write the blog post or stand in front of the camera and say, come to VIU, it's really great. But when you get that extra element of, I actually went to VIU and I'm a recent graduate and this was my experience and this is how I got from point A to point B and this is how I decided what to study and this is how I really sort of address some of these bigger challenges, that packs a lot more of a punch. So that's what I'm really excited about in terms of content.
That's awesome, Christine. One question I have for you, you mentioned sort of including more video, which I think is so exciting and we're seeing lots more of. What would you say, just off the top of your head, not to put you in the hot seat, is your breakdown in terms of focus area relative to written content or video content?
Sorry, maybe I don't understand.
So when you say you're kind of prioritizing video as a kind of key owned content channel or
I
application?
guess we're trying to provide the same message in different platforms because different things are going to resonate with different people. Not everyone wants to watch a 5-10 minute video. Not everyone wants to read an in-depth technical blog post. I think we all know that. So trying to hit people in different channels, and then we're going to promote it differently as well, depending on what it is.
Cool.
Yeah.
You know, being, having 5-star and doing so many videos, video in itself has changed so much in the last few years. I mean, I don't know if you guys have watched a 10-minute or 5-minute video recently, but I'm guessing you haven't because we have terrible attention spans. And so that's been challenging because, I mean, like last week we were working on a campaign and it was like, can you create 15-second bumpers and tell a story in that time? And you're like, oh, okay, I'll try. Let's see what we can do. But that's the reality these days, where it's almost clickbait so that you can draw them to something else that's of substance. And there's a challenge in that. There's also a beauty in that, because when you do hit it, it's great and people love it, and you get goosebumps, and when you draw people in that way. Video is it's an animal. I mean, it's a lot of fun, but Manjit, you have a production company. I'm sure you're constantly trying to navigate that world as well. But I think it's powerful. It's once you harness that tool, and we all have the tool now. You can create a story. You can get your customers doing stories for you, and linking that to your page, and then that builds trust, because it's like, look at these people who love what we're doing, and you're just resharing what they're doing. So I think if you can utilize those tools, it's going to broaden your customer base for sure.
Are any of you playing around with AR and augmented reality in video yet, or not quite?
We've done a little bit we have trailer manufacturers that we work with, and so that are direct. And so you may not be able to go to your Big Boys Toys and check out a trailer. Instead, you can go in and put on a headset and look around. So there's those sort of things that are interesting, similar to like real estate. But that's as far as I've gone.
We haven't really started anything in this realm, but I think the idea of campus tours is kind of hot and heavy in the industry, and it's definitely something that we're thinking about. Not everyone can come to campus and check out where we are and what we offer, but it's a really neat place to be here in Nanaimo and Vancouver Island, and the visual aspects that people could have if they were to look at a video like that are pretty powerful.
I think it's interesting because you do hear about trends like voice, chatbots, AR, increased automation and technology, and we do kind of think of them as far off, but then you look at kind of how they're becoming normalized through things like Instagram filters, and I think we're maybe a lot closer than we think, which is exciting to think about. Anyone else want to touch on that evolution of content question, or?
I mean, you had part of like what channels we're excited about. I mean, we're definitely excited about YouTube. in 2020 and putting more effort into that. I think in general with our marketing efforts, it's such a win when the content you can create, or like, I mean, I think of this event as content, but like offline content can actually be a revenue stream for you as well. And that is one thing that I love about YouTube. If you can get that check coming in from Google, or if you're making larger films and they're being shown on iTunes or wherever, and you can start to get that revenue coming from, the content that you're actually making. But then on top of that, it's also driving, customers to you to buy your products as well. Like, that's just a win-win. So, yeah.
So with social media, we are definitely still very focused on Facebook. It's definitely still the most, not only active, but the most effective. We definitely are on all platforms. However, it still is the one for us that is doing the best for us. And so we continue to focus on it. But one thing we've changed over the last little while, actually a couple quarters, is that we're doing more direct marketing on Facebook rather than brand building, because we have discovered that it is reactionary, and it is now, and it is before I keep scrolling and get sold on something else, socks or widgets or a hair straightener, I need to be able to be on demand, and when I see that, I need to be engaged right then, whether it's through still photographs, whether it's through just words, which also sets you apart now if it's just words, because that doesn't happen as often anymore. So kind of going back to the roots, we definitely do video too, but short, quick video, but really direct marketing. And the nice thing with that is the budgets that have been moved to direct marketing is that they can be measured, and we measure everything. Whereas with brand marketing, we don't measure anything because it's really not fair to measure it. And the way I believe brand marketing is successful, I'm still here 20 years later. And so that takes longer. It's consistency, it's budgets that are also consistent in more traditional media. When we do brand marketing, it's still on TV, it's still radio, it's still newspapers, it's still magazines. But when we're looking to launch something new and looking for immediate feedback, it's definitely on social and all types of digital marketing. And so in our company, we separate the two.
Interesting. You touched on search briefly there, and I want to touch on voice search, because I think this is really exciting. So I read that we may see that as much of half of all web searches will be voice searches by the end of this year. Lots of us are talking to our iPhone these days, it appears. So are you guys seeing this at all in your own business impact this? Are you looking at your SEO plan and actually starting to think about having to think about voice search as being a critical component? Or is this still too nascent and not on your radar yet?
I mean, I think voice search is coming for us, whether our businesses are ready for it or not. So whether we intentionally set forward with a strategy, Google is going to pull whatever information it finds on your website, on your social platforms, and it's going to start feeding answers through its different algorithms. So whether or not that's at the forefront of your plan, I know it sounds like an extra kind of overwhelming thing to add on to the marketing stack that is part of our jobs. It's got to be, if it's not in front of you, it needs to be in your peripherals, and it's definitely something you need to start thinking about and learning more about if it's something that's very foreign and unfamiliar to you.
Christine bringing the truth bomb. Yep. Anyone else want to touch voice search, or no one wants to think about it?
I didn't think about it until I saw the questions that you sent over, and I was like, oh no, I've got to put this on my agenda. Like, how do we? But I think here today there's a lot of smaller businesses, and like the thought of that probably overwhelms you. Where you're like, oh my gosh, I've got to do this, and this, and now this. But I think realizing that if you have a strong SEO and if you already have laid the good foundation, then don't get overwhelmed by that. Focus on laying that good foundation, and that stuff should follow suit. But if you want to get more technical, then definitely start figuring that out on a bigger scale if you have a larger business.
Great answer. How are we doing for time, by the way?
We're 11 o'clock right now.
Okay, so
if you have a couple more questions, we
All right, let's grill these guys for a little bit longer, and then we'll give them a break. Yeah, I mean, I think you just touched on something, which is this overwhelming nature of all the different things that we can incorporate into our marketing strategies. And as digital marketing does mature, costs are rising across the board. So whether that's the average cost for digital ads or services costs associated with a booming and competitive MarTech landscape, what impacts do you think bigger spend requirements could have on marketing strategies this year? And specifically speaking maybe to this audience, how does that impact your approach? What I really want to get at is, with not a huge budget, how can you make a dent with all the available MarTech and marketing strategies available?
I think it's still very cost effective, even though the price has gone up. And I think with a increased cost of digital marketing, you also get more data. You also are able to focus your marketing and target your marketing much more better. And I think that that's really important. I think that we do need to all spend the time to say, who is my ideal customer? If I could pick 40, 400 people, who would those 40 or 400 people be? And then focus on them. And I think that that is the great thing about digital marketing, is that you can actually choose that now, rather than putting it out there and hoping that that magazine reached those people, or that TV commercial in that particular show reached those people. And so I think that even though the cost is going up, it is still very, very effective compared to the other options out there. So I think that it's something that we should all not only embrace, but really learn from and take each data point that is at your fingertips and analyze them and pick and choose, because you have the benefit of being able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, echo what Manjit said there. Prices are definitely going up, and I think it pushes us to find unique strategies. You know, you talked about using text only. That's super interesting. We've been looking at, like, on the e-commerce side of things, optimizing instead of for conversion, picking other things to optimize for. Might be video views, but seeing that we can actually have a nice impact on conversions by optimizing for that, and having to spend less by optimizing for different things, but still getting the conversion results that we want. So yeah, you know, the nice thing about digital advertising is you can see the data like real time, and you can pivot like really fast. So that's obviously a really nice thing about it still, and hard to compete with, really.
Yeah, I think everyone wants a bigger budget, but not everyone's going to get it. And that's just sort of the reality that we live in. But today with digital marketing, because we have such strong tracking abilities, what we can do is we can really tie our marketing spend to actual revenue and incoming dollars. And I think that's what's really going to help justify growing budgets, growing needs, making pivots, turning campaigns off, turning them on again, whatever you need to do to make things work and make sure that things are charging in the right direction.
I think you also have to keep in mind too is that you need to balance your marketing efforts with good creative and then to the next level. You know, you can have bad messaging with you know, and spend a bunch of money, and it won't really do much for you. So you have to be really mindful. You can't put the buggy before the horse. Create good content, or have a good strategy with your content, and then take it to the next level.
That is such a great point, and I think one of the things that I noticed in research for this is, with all these new technologies and increased automation, there has been within the marketing community this focus on returning to quite a human-centered approach. And that's manifesting in things like, you know, really great own channel creation, creativity, looking at things like employer brand as a key marketing channel, as well as thought leadership, which I'll be talking at more length about later today. Anything exciting in that space that you guys are really focused on, bringing back that kind of human-centered focus, just to sort of manage the sort of, I guess, juxtaposition with all the tech and the data and the technology?
I can't speak to like campaigns that I've really done, but I know ones that I've resonated with. I mean, I'll I've bought a curling iron because I watched someone curl their hair with it, you know, and there's that human element where I'm like scrolling through Facebook and I'm, oh my gosh, she has great hair, which started off not great, you know, it's this kind of disheveled woman, and then by the end of it, her hair is fabulous, and it took her 30 seconds, and as a mom, I'm like, I need to buy this right now. And so those sort of efforts, I think, are really interesting to me, because that is a human element. It's a real person doing it. I don't know who she was, but I bought whatever that was. So I think being mindful of that is really interesting with these campaigns that are going on right now.
Yeah, on that line, exactly. I think real people is really important in this day and age, because all of us now our consumers are smart, and they know when it's an actor or when it's really not true. And so therefore we have to work definitely harder to make it resonate with people, because they see themselves in those people that are in our advertising or in our spots or in our storytelling. And so I think, whether if you have a mascot is not relevant anymore, because it's not a human in the end of the day. It doesn't have emotions, and it doesn't have those feelings, and it doesn't do all those things that we need to do to capture somebody's 15, 20 seconds for them to hear the rest of our story and for us to get in their wallets. And so I do think that the more humans and the more real humans we can employ in our marketing is so important. And the not perfect humans are really, really important, to be honest, in the end of the day these days, because it is transparent. It is most of also how we see ourselves on a regular basis. And so I think that human element is just more and more important. And our consumers are smart. They see through the fakeness more and more every single day.
Well, Manjit just stole my presentation this afternoon, so I guess I can leave. That was, no, that was great. I totally agree, and I think the authenticity piece is so huge, and that kind of vulnerable, non-perfect human piece. I think we are running out of time. I did want to get to this question, because this kind of zooms out a little bit away from the tech and looking more at kind of the ecosystem and the sort of socio-political context in which we as marketers are now working. So we have seen, or I have seen at least, a trend to make marketing more inclusive, where at one point you were maybe seeing, a dominant group represented in marketing efforts. You're now seeing language changes, imagery, other things that sort of bring in a more diverse range of society. Anything that you guys are looking at in your own business in terms of sort of accommodating that, I think, much needed and exciting shift to make marketing more inclusive, or anything you're seeing out there in the market that's really spoke to you about this new trend?
I think it's really important to share different stories. And like I touched on earlier before, if I'm making a marketing campaign and I'm trying to convince people to come join us at Vancouver Island University, it's not really going to be a hot seller if it's just me standing in front of a camera saying, hey guys, applications are due. But if I can get a current student, a past student, someone who's thinking about applying to come and share their story and talk more about what they went through and what they offer, then that really provides different perspectives, and I think helps to include different ranges and different people, and just gives a different perspective.
For us, I think the inclusiveness, as far as not only our team members but our customers goes, is recognizing when they are celebrating with alcohol, when they are drinking, whether that be cultural, whether that be religious, whether that be just birthdays, and how they do that. Not only when, but how, and how we can be included in that celebration. And so I think that we have definitely, we call our company the United Nations, because we deliberately over the last 20 years have gotten people from all types, not only of cultural backgrounds, have come from different countries. And with that, it's important to get that firsthand knowledge to say, okay, truly, what do you do at home, and how would you like somebody to market to you, and what makes you pick up X over Y over Z. And so that inclusiveness is definitely something we're doing more, not apparently, but also cautiously, because it's very easy to take that risk and do it wrong. And so we do even bigger focus groups than we do in our regular marketing when we do that specific type of marketing. And because there is a risk that you take when you are doing that diversity or inclusive marketing. But I think that it is necessary, and it is how you separate yourself from your competition. And the consumer realizes that you took that risk to speak to them. Even though not, everybody might do it exactly right, but you can learn from that as long as you're open to admitting if you made a mistake and or listening to it for the next time around. So I do believe that it's really important for all of us to grow our customer base, but also to understand that our customers are not all the same. They might, in our case, go to the same liquor stores, but their needs and their wants are different. And also who's buying it is different. And it's continuously changing. So why not set ourselves apart as companies to actually speak to those different customers as we can with the budgets that we have, which aren't always really big, but with minor changes, you can definitely include a variety of people in them.
That makes me think of the Gillette commercial that many of you probably saw, I guess was last year, with the kind of reframing of the best a man can get.
Right.
And, in some ways that was really well received by some groups, but in terms of their core customer demographic, a lot of people felt, they didn't want to be scolded or, virtue signaled as to what defines masculinity. So that was, I think, an example of what you're talking about, where they took a risk, and in some places it maybe paid off, but with their core customers, maybe it didn't as much. Right. Interesting to look at. Anyone else want to touch that question? Rene?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I think it's really important to be thinking about this and to be looking at it, to be cautious also, though. For us, we're in an industry like outdoor clothing that still today, the majority of the imagery you're going to see is like young, white, male, extreme athlete, right? And the fact of the matter is, most people can't relate to that. That's not them. So for us at our company, it's such an easy win, that the rest of the industry is still showing this image, and we're able to show all sorts of images, just a diverse group of people getting out into the outdoors in their own way, right? Yeah.
Love that. I think we'll just do a quick wrap up here. I know we're out of time. I could stay and talk to you all for the whole day. People want to probably have a little stretch, though, I'm sure. So I guess we've covered a lot of ground today in terms of looking at different trends. Just to wrap things up, anything we missed that you think is really important to be on the radar of the folks here today in terms of what they should be looking out for, whether it's the year ahead or even the whole decade?
I was, preparing for today, and I was looking at quotes, and one that kind of stood out was, "The most costly thing you can do is nothing." And so, do something. After this event, don't be fearful. Try putting something together, whether it's big or small. Do something, because it's only going to help your business, and it's only going to give you perspective, and it's only going to get you closer to your customers. It's only going to do good. But don't do nothing, because that's not what this is about.
On those lines, I would say focus. I think it's really important for everybody to go and sit down with a pen and paper. And I say pen and paper because when I do it on a computer, emails pop up and there's too many distractions. So I do it with a pen and a paper. And to focus and say, who am I making this product for? And I think that it's so important, because when we don't decide who it's for, we get boring in our marketing because we're trying to sell it to everybody, and we don't take any risks, and we're trying to sell it to anybody and everybody, and really that's impossible, and that's not going to happen. So why not make it realistic and pick and choose who is this actually for? And I think that's the toughest thing to do as a marketer, is to decide and say that I actually don't want you, I want you, and why I want you. And then to to be able to develop a strategy once you have a focus on who it's for makes it easier. Also can make it more challenging, but definitely gives you a guideline in order to execute not only now, but set the platform for the next decade. I think that that is something that is one of the toughest questions as marketers, but something you really do have to be honest with the CEOs, with the founders, with your executives to say why and who, most importantly, are we making this product for?
Great answer. Christine?
Yeah, one thing we didn't really touch on too much today was marketing automation. I think it's going to be a big contender in terms of strategy and what we do for future campaigns. We talked a lot about voice search and different sort of technical things that are coming to the forefront. When we look into ways to automate our marketing campaigns after we figured out who we're talking to and what we want to say, there's ways to streamline it and make it easier for ourselves by finding the right tools. I know it can sound a little bit scary and very technical, but there's some really neat things that I think are going to happen.
Are you seeing anything right now that's really working for you on the automation side?
Not currently. I really like some of the things that I'm seeing in email in terms of drip campaigns. So sending people the right message at the right time, depending on how they interacted with your website. If they interacted with your website, did they open your email? Like, should you send another one? It'll help you make really good decisions based on whether or not someone kind of likes you, doesn't know you at all, or unsubscribed.
Yeah, I would say just overall, like we were talking about before, just really listen to your customers. I think that's like the number one takeaway from this panel for sure. Without a customer, you don't have a business. So definitely start there. Get out there, start talking to them, do one-on-one interviews, whatever you have to do. Figure out what they like about your product, what they don't like about it, etc. That's critical for sure.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much. You all come to this from such different backgrounds and perspectives, and I think I certainly took a lot from this. I hope you all did as well. I think with that, we'll wrap things up. We don't have questions from the audience, right?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, but thank you. Thank you guys for being here today. I'm just so happy to have had this panel. And if you guys want to stretch your legs for a few minutes, Christine Johnson is going to be doing the next presentation, but we'll take these chairs out of the way and yeah. But thank you guys.
Thanks, everyone.